Okay, for this fly, we're going to tie a streamer, and the streamer that we're going to tie is a woolly bugger. And the woolly bugger sometimes can be considered a fly that's not a streamer, but for these purposes that we're going to tie, it would be. And it would be a larger woolly bugger, and one that I fish with quite a bit as far as a streamer. It imitates maybe a crawdad or crayfish or a bait fish. So we're going to tie with a larger hook. We're using the size 4 streamer hook. First thing I'm going to do is put that hook in the vise. Make sure it's nice and flat along here. I'm tilted up just a little, but not too bad. Okay, the next thing is I'm going to get my thread attached to the hook. Remember again, take the thread, get it perpendicular to the hook, wraps along the shank, and then wrap back along those wraps. Once you wrap over your wraps, you now have the thread fastened to the hook. Okay, I'm going to get the thread to the back of the fly. While I have it on the back of the fly, I don't need this, so I'm going to snip this. And the next step is going to be, since this is a streamer fly and it is fished subsurface, we need to find a way to weight this fly down. Now there are a number of options. One of the options is to use what we talked about earlier with the barbell eyes that actually work pretty well as far as weighting the very front of the fly, like this streamer right here, those big barbell eyes. Tie those on. That really gives a fly a lot of weight. But instead of doing that, we're going to use a little bit of wire here. And this is little lead wire. And we're just going to tie a little bit up here towards the middle of the hook. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this lead wire off of the spool. Not much, but we'll just get a little bit here and strip it off of the spool and wrap it around that hook. So there's my little strip of lead wire. I'm going to take that. I'm going to just wrap that lead wire around the shank of the hook. I don't need to use a lot. Just enough so that this hook will sink immediately when it hits the water, which is what we want since this is a streamer. Okay, there we go. Use my scissors, snip that lead nice and easily. There we go, we've got a little bit of lead wire on the hook. Okay, now to begin tying the fly. For the back end of this fly, again, almost 90% of flies, your tying starts at the back. We're at the back. We're going to put a tail on this fly. This tail is made of marabou. This is a natural feather, I believe, marabou. I believe it comes from an ostrich. Could be corrected on that, I'm not 100% certain. So I'm going to take that marabou. I'm going to place it right on the back end of the fly. Grab my bobbin, make a couple of nice tight wraps to tie that marabou onto the back end of the fly. Don't need this part, so I will snip that. Okay, on this fly, I do like to add a little bit of sparkle. So what I will do is I'm going to take this crystal flash, grab maybe 1 or 2 fibers of that, not a lot, and I'm going to tie those fibers right onto the hook, right where I tied the marabou. So I like to go fibers on one side, and once I get it tied on there, pull the other fibers to the other side so that there is some flash on both sides of this fly. There we go. Now that flash hangs down a long ways because it's relatively long, so what I do is I grab it, pull it back, and then cut it. I always cut it just a tad longer than the marabou. There we go. So when that's streaking through the water, it'll give off just a little bit of flash. Alright, so we've got our marabou tied on. Now the next step is we are going to have to tie on a piece of hackle. Now, I've got some grizzly hackle here. And on this grizzly hackle, some of the hackle has nice small fibers type hackle, and some of it has the heavier, almost bushier, fluffier type hackle like that one. That's the kind that I'm looking for a woolly bugger. I'm not looking to try to make this fly float. I'm just trying to make it look, well, more buggy. And that's what these kind of fibers are going to do. So, snip that. Now notice again I've got this fluffy stuff back here. I don't want that, so I just kind of peel that until it breaks. And there is the hackle that I'm going to use. I'm going to take that hackle, I'm going to tie it in the exact same spot that I have tied my flash and my marabou. Now to keep that out of the way, I'm just going to put it right in the keeper just like that. Okay, and then the next step is we're going to tie in what's called chenille. This is a synthetic. It's kind of like it's like a pliable pipe cleaner. And we're going to tie some of this in, and it's going to wrap around the fly just like that. Give the fly some body. So I cut myself a strip. This is a size 4 woolly bugger. Cut myself a strip that might be, I don't know, 5.5 inches. Okay, so I'll take that chenille and I will tie that chenille right in the exact same spot as I've tied everything else. So the one interesting thing about tying a woolly bugger is everything ties in the same spot. We have tied in all of the materials that we will use for this fly. Okay, so for my next step I need to get my thread from the back of the fly up to the front of the fly. But before I do that, I like to kind of go back and forth on that lead a number of times, kind of to hold it in place, because when you start casting that fly, you don't want that thread to start shifting up and down. So just do that a number of times, get my thread up to the eyelet. Okay, now that I've got it at the eyelet, first thing I'm going to do is grab my chenille, pipe cleaner looking material. I'm going to wrap that chenille around the shank of the hook all the way to the front. Give this fly a nice kind of bushy, a lot of people say like a caterpillar look. Kind of does. Once I get to the front, get a couple of wraps around it. And then the part that I don't need is this. So I'm going to snip that off. Okay. Next step, I'm going to take this hackle and I'm going to wrap it forward, same way I just wrapped that chenille. So I will wrap forward, letting that hackle fibers flare out a little bit. This hackle is not, the fibers aren't quite as big as I would have liked, but it'll work. All the way to the front of the fly. Once we get to the front, we just tie it off using our thread. Then I snip the excess hackle. Okay, we've tied everything in, got the lead wire on there, so this fly is guaranteed to sink. Now I'm going to take my whip finisher and I'm going to whip finish the front of this fly. So again, I take the whip finisher, hook it in on the bottom, lift my thread, turn the whip finisher, and end up with that triangle. That triangle, you take the one vertex, put it right down by your hook, and you wrap. 5 or 6 times, push to get it off of that part of the hook. Now I just pull, and there it is. The woolly bugger. Really a great fly. It can be fished as a streamer, so popped through the water, stripped through the water, run through the water quickly like a bait fish or like a crayfish. Or you can let this dead drift in the rivers and currents and lakes, and the fish will hit it then too. So really a good fly. There you have it.